We're moving back to Australia.
But first, let's rewind a little.
In 2019, we started our plan to move to Canada from Australia. We eventually sold our farm in 2020.
We've pretty much sold our house. So we sold our house and we cannot believe it. We were absolutely blown away with how quickly this whole process took place.
Just as COVID hit and the world shut down, airports were closed, which meant our plans to move abroad were at a standstill, meaning we needed a quick rental in Australia until we could fly out. We found ourselves a large farm to rent, and eventually we were able to apply for our visas. Our visa application should have been simple, but it wasn't. What was a standard visa task of supplying a standard police check turned into a nightmare. I didn't realise that I had a record from not having my gun safe correctly bolted to the wall in our old farmhouse. I was never arrested and paid the fine on time, but I was still given a criminal record, which I had absolutely no idea about. Connor had landed a job in British Columbia on Canada's largest cattle ranch and was granted a 2-year visa. We needed to sort my visa out ASAP. After some legal advice, we decided to risk it all. We were told if we flew to the US first and stayed a night, then entered Canada from the US, I could apply for a TRP.
Hey guys, we made it to Seattle. I look like an absolute mess.
This is a special permit that allows criminals with small crimes to enter Canada. We arrived at Vancouver extremely nervous and loaded with legal ammunition of a signed affidavit from a lawyer in Sydney, bank statements, references, and so on. Okay guys, so we're here. We're in Vancouver and I'm really nervous. Am I going to get this TRP visa? Guys, my work permit was approved. 2 years. Oh my god. Thankfully, they saw my side and granted me a 2-year working visa. Guys, we're here. We did it. We're in the hotel. We've literally just walked in, like we've just dumped the bags and we're in, and I wanted to jump on here because I was so excited to say, we did it. Our first 2 weeks in Canada were spent in hotel quarantine with 2 young, jet-lagged kids. What a terrible experience it was. We had made this massive move abroad and had to wait 14 full days to explore beautiful Canada. Guys, we're free! Finally free! Once we were out of quarantine, we spent 10 full days in an Airbnb where we madly rushed around and bought all our furniture, a truck, clothes, and opened up our bank accounts, sorted out our driver's license, our SIM number, and so on. The day finally came to leave Vancouver, and we were heading 5 hours inland to the ranch in the Okanagan area. First, we needed to pick up our 2 dogs that we had flown over from Australia. We waited hours at the airport only to be told that the flight company told us the wrong date and they wouldn't be ready to be picked up for another 24 hours. This really threw a spanner in the works as we had only rented our Airbnb until that morning, so we had to hit the road and head for the ranch without the dogs. We set off for the ranch with our U-Haul trailer in tow full of furniture. We could finally breathe, taking in the gorgeous BC scenery. When we arrived on the ranch, we were given a temporary home for a few nights. We unloaded all of our belongings and poor Connor drove the 5 hours back to Vancouver the next day to pick up our gorgeous pups. After 5 days on the ranch, in the temporary home, we were given our more permanent home, and we then had to move all of our belongings from that house to the new house. Luckily, it was only a couple of houses down on the street in the ranch. Life on the ranch was breathtaking and probably one of the best things we did in our time in Canada. Every day we saw epic wildlife, including hundreds of black bears, coyotes, and the odd moose. After 7 months on the ranch, it was time for our next adventure. Unfortunately, agricultural workers aren't paid very well in Canada compared to Australia, and we were chipping into our savings living and working on this ranch. We decided to move to Alberta, where the taxes are lower, and Connor had landed a great job. In Alberta, we scored an amazing house on 20 acres in Cochrane with epic Rocky Mountain views. Our time spent in Alberta the last almost 2 years has been amazing. We've met some incredible people and enjoyed the western scene, including rodeos and Tilly's mutton busting experiences. We also experienced our first true Canadian winter in Alberta, a real Christmas tree while it's snowing out, and the fire going. Absolutely gorgeous, just like the movies. The Rocky Mountains will always hold my heart. The epic turquoise lakes, crisp mountain air, and the beautiful snowfall. We absolutely love it here. The kids and my visa expired in March 2023 and we applied for a renewal in August 2022. It's been 7 months of waiting on an answer and nothing. Not one word from IRCC about our applications. We are legally allowed to stay in Canada until a decision has been made, but we've been so stressed out with this whole process. Sadly, Connor doesn't enjoy working in the agricultural industry in Canada. The cropping side of farming isn't as good as what he has experienced in Australia, making him super homesick. Inflation is insane worldwide at the moment. We knew before moving to Canada that Canada's income is lower than Australia's and the cost of living higher. But with inflation, it is making life pretty miserable. We've been making ends meet fine, but for future plans, we don't see us being able to achieve our goals of owning a farm in Canada anymore. We know inflation won't last forever, but with the visa stress and Connor not enjoying his work lifestyle here, it's made us both pretty homesick for Australia. We know that many people will disagree with our reasonings and say that Australia is way more expensive than Canada, but where we are from in Australia, it isn't. Life's about perspective, and from our eyes and life's experiences, Australia is what will work for our family in the long run. We don't want this video to deter people from moving to Canada. Our experience in Canada has been unreal. The scenery, weather, and wildlife is out of this world. Canada has healed and grown me as a person. The confidence I was lacking before moving to Canada has grown immensely. I was never lacking confidence in everyday life, but for big decisions such as should I start and run my own farm, would always play in my mind as a silly idea. But since moving to Canada, I grab life by the horns and I run with it. Like I've always said, life's too short for what ifs. Don't dream about it, make a plan and go for it. We will leave Canada knowing we tried it and won't ever wonder what if. Canada, you've been an amazing ride. You're our second home and we absolutely love you.
I am fairly well now, I am strong, I am goodbye, I'm a long way from home. I am an orchard at the start of spring, I am a mockingbird, I love to sing, and I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna fly. I am an old road walking on my feet, I am laughing neath the weeping willow tree, I am a dog barking, a honeybee sting, I ain't no angel but I've got my wings, I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna fly, I'm flesh and bones. I am a gunshot with a microphone. I'm a boy at the window as the summer sun sets. An old man in winter, nothing more, nothing less. I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna fly.
Welcome back, guys. Huge news to shock you guys on. Before I get into it, I am going to do a very quick disclaimer. I am in an oversized men's t-shirt. I have the flu. My nose is red raw. And I've tried to wait days to film this, but unfortunately our time's getting to the end of us moving back to Australia, and I don't want you guys to be totally shocked with us announcing this when we're in Australia. So this is the only time I could do this, is me looking like shit. I may cut bits out here and there as I go to use the Kleenex because my nose is not good. But this is as good as it gets. The news is correct. We are moving back to Australia, and it will come as a massive shock to you guys because I know you see us on Instagram and Facebook and my blog, and then obviously on here on YouTube saying how much we love Canada. And
we do love Canada.
Yeah, we absolutely love Canada, but we're, as you can see from the video and the explanation, we're a little homesick. As time's ticking, we're very homesick, but Connor, well, you can explain why you want to move back. A brief. This is like, before we say all this, by the way, everyone's different. Like, if someone's going to move from the UK to Alberta or Canada or whatever, and they always say, oh, it's a big blue sky country and it's sun shining and stuff, and, you know, things are close by and the whatever, that's... A lot of people from the UK say that. Australia has good weather all year round. Yeah, people want to live in suburbia, some people want to live in the country, some people want to live acreages, people want farming, every person and family is different. So when we say our reasons of why we're moving back to Australia, I don't want people going, well, you could have moved to another province and tried this. We're not multi-millionaires, are we?
No.
We're on one income.
Yeah.
We've already moved from Australia to BC and then to Alberta. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. I get those comments a lot on our other videos. What was one that I got? Oh, you think you would have done your research before you moved to another country, you know, to find that out or something. I can't remember what it was about. I was like, you don't know until you've moved, and we don't see this move as a...
There's a lot of things you don't see until you're actually here.
Yeah, we don't see this as, oh, we failed. We've enjoyed every minute of it, haven't we? Well, almost, apart from some of Connor's work, but
we
wouldn't take it back.
The home life, and that is amazing.
I already know someone's going to comment, but Sydney and Melbourne's so expensive.
Yeah.
I already know that's coming. So explain why you want to move with work and agriculture, then I'll jump on to these comments that I know I'm going to get.
So Australian work has much better benefits than Canada offers.
Anyway, we've cut that part out because I said to Connie, you have to add in what Canada's sick pay is or what their annual pay is, because I know everyone will ask. Connor's current work, he gets, is it 3 days sick pay?
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, in most jobs, like 99% of the jobs, it's 10 days paid. You could be working in a cafe, you could be working as a doctor, wherever. Most jobs you get nearly 10 days paid sick pay. Then your annual leave is 10 days, isn't it?
Yeah, 10 days in Canada.
And in Australia, it is 20 days. Then in Canada, you must pay pension, your superannuation, we call it in Australia, but your pension. And that comes out of your own pay. But with pension in Australia, your employer pays for that, which is a huge increase in your income when you add that in. then it's mandatory to have health cover here, which is great. We get a lot of health cover, but in Australia we have Medicare, which I know Canada has its health cover, whatever it's called, but it's not mandatory to have private health as well. This is just our experience. I know some people go, well, in this province we don't have to. This is Alberta and BC. This is why we're moving, and we don't actually want to live on the other side of Canada, not because it's not beautiful, but we've already done 2 moves in Canada, and the rest of Canada, well, we're not city people, and then Saskatchewan, Manitoba is very flat, very much like the wheat belt where we're from in Australia, but then the income's the same as, you know, what we're going through in Canada anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. The work hours and the demand for agricultural work in Canada is a lot more than Australia. Both agricultural departments in both countries work very hard, but I think with Canada having the winter years, they have got so much more time critical things to have done for each season. So,
well, in spring and summer you're flat out.
Yeah,
and
so
then winter nothing.
So we want to enjoy the spring and summer, but I'm working most weekends.
Connor's been coming home at 12 at night and 10 at night, and
yeah, there's many,
and then back up to drive to work at 6 a.m.
There's many days where it's 16, 18-hour days.
Yeah,
trying to get customers happy, but it's just a different sort of demand. And then yet again, come winter, it goes very quiet. But then there's not an awful lot that you can do outside when it's.
And so Connor's working down in High River, and we're in Cochrane, so that's an hour and maybe 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
Down there, obviously with traffic it's more. And then he jumps in a company car once he gets there, and then could be down all the way down to Montana, Lethbridge, not to in Montana, but the border of Montana, out across towards the BC border. And then a customer may call him, and he's got to be all the way up, you know, the opposite side again, and then he's got to go back and then drive. And I know that every job company is different. There was nothing wrong with his company that he worked for, but it seems the amount of work you're required to do for the pay that we get after tax and all the deductions is very minimal, and makes it very hard for us in our situation to live in Canada on one main income. I do earn money online, but one main income is very hard in Canada. So I know a lot of people. Yes, buddy. Come on. Oh, was that my phone? Did it beep?
Yeah.
Thank you. I know a lot of people will say, why didn't you do your research before you came to Canada? And some of the things there you couldn't do your research on. You wouldn't know that the work hours in.
Yeah, and there's just things that we didn't even think to look up, you know, that it's.
Well, we were wanting to go to Canada so much.
Well, yeah, but Canada manages like different tax things differently to how Australia and the UK do. Like employment insurance, that gets taken out of your offered wage, whereas in Australia it gets taken out above it, so you get given your wage, then the employer pays that. So
yeah, it's just things like that I mean, we did research it, but there are other things. I'm not going to get into it because people get very patriotic about their country, and I would too if people were saying stuff about my country. But so we're not going to get into full details. That's not the only reason why we're leaving. Yes, we could have researched that stuff and it wouldn't have been a big deal breaker. We're not the sort of people that are like, your whole life has to be around money. But when you're living paycheck to paycheck and barely like covering it, we've been living comfortably, but we want a farm or a ranch at the end of the day, and we're goal setters in that way, and it's getting harder and harder with inflation and everything. So
things have come more aligned with Australia with that sort of ideology that we want.
Yeah, and I think we've changed as well as people since we got here.
I think anyone that moves to a different country, you develop your your own personal.
I wasn't listening. I was reading what I was going to say next. What did you say?
I think you develop much more as a person if you move to a different country.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, Bec, you've said that a few times coming moving to Canada. I've moved from Ireland to Australia, so I've already experienced some of that. And now moving from Australia to Canada with kids and a partner.
Yeah, I never got that gap here. Some people do. Like I did, and I went and worked, but I never did the whole go travel and backpack and move abroad. I went to Bali many times for little 2-week holidays, but I feel like the confidence I've grown as a person, and I mentioned this in the video, but I've always been a confident person in general. But for big decisions now, like us wanting a farm and stuff, I'm even more like, why not? Like, who cares what anyone thinks or the goals we have to achieve to get to that? We're just doing it, and I owe a lot of that to moving abroad. I think it's grown both of us, and
well, everything leans on us. There's no fallback here in Canada, so if we don't make things work, it's on us to plan that and work our way out of it. So that really develops anyone.
I think Connor and I have grown together. Like, we've always had a good relationship, always. But at the beginning, don't say that. I'm so sick right now. I'm trying to get through this. But yeah, we've always had a good relationship. I hate talking about feelings, but I was going to say that Connor was the main one who wanted to move home. I was very upset at the beginning. There was no arguing or anything, was there? It wasn't throwing plates or anything. But I was very upset because it sort of came out of nowhere. Little man interrupting us again. I knew Connor was miserable at work, but I didn't know it was because he wanted to move back to Australia, and he sprung it on me very quickly. And then I was like, well, if it's going to make him happy, we'll go back. And for a long time, I was just doing it purely to make him happy and putting on a happy face, somewhat. And then we went for a drive up near Red Deer and this whole area that we've been looking at possibly moving to eventually, Sylvan Lake, up near there. And it was absolutely stunning. But then I sort of got in my head that if we go back to Australia, at least we have our family there to see the kids and be able to say, look what we've done. And I know that sounds like we're trying to show off to people, but it's nice to have family. We don't have any...
appreciate what effort we've put into things. Yeah,
be able to go, we're going to have a barbecue on Friday night, come around and just relax and enjoy things. Here it's just Connor, myself and the kids. Connor's parents are in Ireland and my dad's in Australia. My mum's passed away, but my sister's in Australia and her husband and kids, and that sort of, when we went for that drive, we both teared up. I think at the end of the day, it's the right decision for us to move back to Australia because, I don't know, I think my outlook on everything, I know there's flies and very venomous snakes where we live.
There's good and bad things about both countries, and
the things that we don't so much want here anymore, that bad side outweighs the snakes, and so I'll put up with that now, if that makes sense.
And we're not trying to deter anyone from Canada or Australia. Not. There's definitely great parts about both countries. I just think for us, we've decided that Australia is probably going to be the place where we can get ahead and get maybe get to our dreams.
Yeah, goals, not dreams. Dreams means it's just a dream. Goal. But yes, like Connor said, it depends on your situation, what country you're coming from. People from Australia still come here and absolutely love it, and we did, but it's honestly, like, our situation, we'll explain it soon, is so different to what we're going back to in Australia. I know that the rent prices, inflation is up in Australia too. So yes, we're moving back to Australia. Some of you may think it's because our visas were declined, and at the start of this video I did mention that we've heard nothing from IRCC until I was in Walmart the other day and I had this very strange feeling to check my junk folder, and it had accidentally been sent to my junk folder 2 weeks prior, even though I had kept an eye on that, but for some reason, I don't know why, in Walmart I thought to look at that, and I'll insert a picture here, but I rang Connor. At this stage we'd already booked our flights back to Australia, but it's sort of put a few feelings in the mix of mixed emotions. Like, I rang him, was like, oh my god, I was granted my rehabilitation. If you're new here, I have a silly criminal record for not bolting a gun safe to a wall. Not going to get into that. And that was back in Australia, and I had to do this huge big application to get my name cleared here in Canada before we could pursue the next step of permanent residency applications. And that was granted. So we have been granted visas, and mine was all approved, and we could go now down the route of permanent residency, but we have decided to still go back to Australia because that wasn't the reason why we weren't going to stay here in the first place. Yeah. It was other reasons. So yeah, I just thought I'd give that little, it doesn't change much, but at least you guys know we all that stress and effort and money we put into it, at least it was approved. And if we did go back to Australia and decided to come back to Canada, which I don't think it will, but we've got the option to apply for permanent residency now. So our plans for moving back to Australia. So my dad owns a farm in Wheatbelt of Western Australia. He has a house on it as well as a cottage, and we did live in the cottage back in 2015 and I gave birth to Tilly when we were living in that house. And we're going to go move back there, which we're very excited about.
Yeah.
It's a really nice old cottage that dates back to the settlement days, and the property reminds me very much of the older style, sort of like McLeod's Daughters, if you watch that, with the older buildings and the old, the shed made out of rocks and stones. And
now her dad's modified it and upgraded some of the things on it. So
yeah, Dad's been living there for a while. He actually, and this sounds really terrible, I wasn't even going to put this in, but I may as well because it'll be part of our future. Dad does not want to live in the cottage. He wants to give it to us to live in, and he wants to build a big sea container house. So I might, if you guys are interested, I might put that in DIY that Dad's doing up on the YouTube channel. Let me know below. A few of you guys loved my dad on my YouTube channel when he was over, sorry, and he's very Crocodile Dundee. So I might put a bit of that up on here. But yeah, he's got a big 40-foot sea container, and he works away on the mine, so he's not home that often. And he's going to go set it up near the shearing shed and where it's got power, and use the
turn it into a mini house.
Use the furniture that's in the cottage and put it in there. Whatever's left over we'll use. And he's not doing this because we're broke. I don't want anyone thinking we're going back, and he's doing this just to be kind, and we love that property when we left there because our family expanded and it wasn't
right, it just wasn't right at the time.
And we bought our own farm back then. So our plan is to move back, save up for a while, and eventually lease our own land here and there while living there, and then buy our own. But I'm going to go into more detail of that in a future video of our plans for farming. I will interrupt this little part just to let you guys know about our online Western store. We will continue it in Australia. We're going to be offering you guys a huge sale of 40% off the whole site, except quilts. I think they're 25% off, I can't remember, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with our stock. The reason why we're having such a huge, massive 40% off sale is because we're trying to limit the amount that we take back to Australia. We are only taking 7 suitcases and a few boxes. So we will continue the website in Australia from the stock that we haven't sold, but we will be rebranding from Out West Rancher to Out West Country, because in Australia, we don't call farms ranches, we call them farms or stations. So the name Out West Country is a lot more suited to Australia, but we will, when we're in Australia, be shipping worldwide still. It's just, and we will still have the bison logo, but probably incorporate a second logo that matches Australia as well. We're not 100% sure yet, but please go on there if you'd like to support us, help us with the amount of weight we're going to be taking on the plane.
Please help me with the amount of weight that we're taking.
Okay, so Connor's going to tell you about his job.
New job,
yeah.
So I managed to get a manager role at a dealership close to town where we're going to be living, so I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah.
Finally have some a manager role, which I've always wanted, where I can, I don't know, make my own, have my own responsibilities.
Yeah, so he's working for the old company he used to work for when I was pregnant with Tilly, but a higher up role now. So he sort of learnt from back then and then went to another job, moved to Canada, and now he's going back as a manager. So yeah, that's good.
Looking exciting.
Our timeline for moving is we've done all this with 8 weeks. So it was, okay, we're moving, let's book tickets. We were looking for 12 weeks, but the flights were way too expensive. It was ridiculous. It was like double the price.
Yeah.
So we got a Qantas sale, and then we were like, let's move in 8 weeks. And so it is 5.5 weeks now until we get on the aeroplane. We've sold our truck, which is very, very sad. That's another thing I'm going to miss about living in Canada is my big F350 truck. In Australia, you just don't get them here, there. You do, but just very expensive. And we're not going to go sending it back to Australia. I know somebody will say that, but yeah, we're not doing that. So yeah, we've sold it. It's getting picked up this week. We've still got couches to sell, the dining table. We've pulled apart the kids' beds, which has been really frustrating. 2 people wanted the kids' bed frames. The kids are on the floor on the mattress now, and they never showed up. The second person, I said, please make sure you show up, because the first person didn't and asked for a deposit, and they swore they'd be here, and then they didn't rock up. So selling stuff's been very, very frustrating, and a lot of people barter prices when you've already put them low because you're moving abroad and you've got to get rid of it. I have done a little video on that, a future video that you guys will see of our garage sale and a few other things. Connor's gone to assist Riley, but when we go back to Australia, our YouTube channel will be changing from Bec and Conor to Bec Out West. My role when we go to Australia will be setting up our farm. Dad does not run any stock on his farm at the moment because he is working away on the mines. So I will be purchasing cattle and sheep for myself to run on the farm. It'll be a whole family venture, but it will be my job. I've always dreamed of working from home, but still being able to pick up the kids from school and drop them off, etc. So the YouTube channel will be changed to Bec Out West, the name of it. It will still be the same links and everything. You'll still be able to find me, but although Conor will be in parts of the videos, I will primarily be the main person on it because he'll be having his own career and job, and mine will consist of setting up our farm and running stock, and I hope to share things like us building our chicken coop, veggie garden, rose garden. I'm going to be getting a working dog, a pup, when I get home. Tilly really wants a kitten. Training the working dog on stock, getting horses, just setting up life again and showing you guys a bit of the Australian, I guess, outback or wheat belt way. So if that's something that interests you guys, make sure you stay subscribed. If not, I understand. I know some of you have wanted to stay on this channel because you want to learn more about moving abroad or family life, traveling or living in Canada or whatever, and so I understand if you guys unsubscribe, but I really hope you don't, and I hope you tune in more. Alright, I thought we would I know it's a huge shock of why we're moving, I haven't even gone fully into it, but I think you guys get the gist. I thought we'd move into a little part of this video, it's a little more fun, of things that we'll miss about Canada and things we're looking forward to in Australia.
You okay?
Yeah? Did you hear me or were you busy watching?
No, I heard. It's just a surprise.
I've already written them down for you.
Oh, okay.
It's things that over the last, couple of months that we're like, oh, this would be good in Australia, can't wait for that again, or, oh, I will miss this in Canada. It's just silly little things. Obviously, the mountains in Canada we're going to miss. That's a very obvious fact. I'm just going to say silly little things like things we miss in Canada is big bags of jerky. You cannot get big bags of jerky in Australia. I mean, there may be a shop somewhere, but here every single grocery store or Cabela's or whatever sells the big large bags. You can get small bags, but they're very expensive. We did make our own jerky in Australia as well, so but I'm going to miss the big bags of jerky because that was always my go-to on the road snack.
So things about Canada that we'll miss is probably like the wildlife, having the fresh cold snow during Christmas too.
Yeah.
Like having an actual Christmas.
Christmas in Australia sucks. Like, it is so crap now. I never used to think that, and I know that sounds like a horrible thing, and Christmas isn't about presents and all this stuff, but Christmas here is so much better with the snowfall, the crisp air, the music, and something about the Christmas lights on the streets with the snow. Oh my god. Yeah. It makes me want to cry right now.
That's what I've always said about Australia. It's not real. It's not a real Christmas.
40 something degrees in Australia, and it's just so hot. Another thing, there's obvious things. I don't need to go into the wildlife, turquoise lakes, the snow, the mountains. Starbucks drive-through, coffee drive-throughs aren't huge in Australia. Not like here. And Starbucks, I know that does not make me a Canadian. Most Canadians love Tim Hortons, but I prefer Starbucks. Okay, I know that was a very short list for Canada. There is lots more, but I can't think of them right now. I've got the flu, and these are just random ones that we wrote down. Alright, so things that we look forward to moving back to Australia. Do you want to say a few? Because I've basically spoken this whole video because I'm sick.
Just keep taking over.
I'm trying to rush it because I need to get back to bed. I'm so unwell.
Well, most of these are yours.
I know, because I'm the one writing it all.
Yeah. So like wearing thongs.
Flip-flops. Okay.
Yeah. So when Bec says that, she means like all year round.
Yeah, even in winter in Australia, you've got your flip-flops on. Even if it's raining, just chuck them on.
5 Seeds cider, yet again another Bec's favourite.
Yeah, 5 Seeds cider is so good. I'm not a cider drinker like this Strongbow and is it Magnum, yeah. I don't like those. They're too Magnus, that's it. Way too sweet. Love 5 Seeds, the Tui's 5 Seeds, because it gives me sort of like it's a refreshing beer but with like a cider taste. I like it. Yeah. Miss that.
The preservatives and food dyes, I think they're more regulated in Australia, so we don't get quite as many. That's something that we're not going to miss about Canada. A lot of food doesn't match the same. I don't know if this is one, but like Doritos has red dyes, or that might be in the US, but in Australia it doesn't, but they taste the same. Like, there's lots of foods here that my kids react to which they didn't in Australia, so that's something we're looking forward to in Australia, is knowing what foods we can and cannot eat. Instant coffee.
Yes.
And like just being able to go anywhere.
Some people are going to think we're crazy.
No, I know, but just being able to go anywhere and get a coffee and know that it's going to be good. Whereas in Canada, you've got like a preference of coffee, and that's the only place you'll find that's good for you.
So when we came to Canada for our holiday in 2019, we got on the plane and the coffee was terrible. It was Air Canada, and I was like, what the hell? Can't wait to get to the airport. And then we got to the airport and I was like, what is this coffee? And we hated it the whole trip. But then when we moved here, after 2 weeks, we got used to it. It's just a preference, really. We're not shitting all over your coffee here, but
I am.
A lot of people, if you go on TikTok and say, type in on TikTok Canada, Australia coffee, you will find so many people Canadians moving to Australia going, wow, the coffee is insane here. So we do miss that. We're not coffee snobs. We use Nescafe blend 43 in the morning with my coconut milk inside it. But the Nescafe blend 43 here is different to the one in Australia. Even though it's the same company, it tastes very different.
Definitely.
Going to look forward to the smell of the gum leaves, and I know that sounds silly, but we went on holiday to Canada in 2019 for 2 weeks, and then we flew to Ireland for 2 weeks. And when we got off the plane back to Perth and got out the doors of the airport, it was like as though that's the Australian scent. You could smell the gum leaves. I remember us saying, is it always like this? Are we just used to it? Is someone spraying like eucalyptus or gum leaf smell or whatever? I'm looking forward to that. That's like a home smell for me. And the red dirt. I'm a red dirt girl.
Yeah.
So
And then after a really like warm day, if it comes through with a thunderstorm with rain.
Yes. Big summer storm.
After a summer, big summer storm and the rain smell. That's definitely something a little different.
It's more earthy of a smell in like the dirt sort of. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
And if you have a tin roof, it just there's that noise. And I know Canadians have tin roofs every now and then, but
we're looking forward to see. Oh, obviously, the first one should have been family, shouldn't it? That sounds bad that we said thongs.
Yeah, thongs come first.
My sister and her partner, my brother-in-law, and her 2 girls, and my dad, and obviously cousins and aunties and uncles. But yeah, looking forward to seeing friends and family.
Yeah.
Another one is obviously income versus the cost of living. It's a high income, lower cost of living for our situation. Barbecue sauce. My dad has brought barbecue sauce over here twice now, and chicken salt. Chicken salt is salt that you put on chicken or chips, but it tastes so good. And I'm not the only one. I've seen people make videos about that. Lollies and chocolate. So in Australia we call lollies candy is lollies in Australia. Just a lot more of a selection and not those dyes all in it.
Yeah.
Red food dyes, purple, blue food dyes. There's a company called Natural Confectionery Company and a few other ones that are, and they're just cheap normal lollies or candy, but you'd have to buy them from some special place. It's just there.
Still full of sugar, but no food dyes.
I am looking forward to sheep and cattle work. I love the smell of sheep and cow shit. I know that sounds really weird. Obviously, I would not want to live next to a feedlot or anything like that, but it's when it's a hot day and you've been out working all day doing stuff and you got a beer and you're near the shearing shed or the sheep yards and that smell of the...
I think it's just associated
It reminds me of when I worked at the stockyards and stuff. Like
that's just associated with hard work and finishing the day. And
the Australian smell with the eucalyptus and the sheep shit.
Bec's new perfume range.
I think that's... I mean, there's so many things we're going to miss about Canada and so many things we're looking forward to going back to Australia. These are just silly little things while we're at the stress of moving that we came up with. Oh, you've got halloumi written there, the cheese. Did you say that?
I didn't say it, but yeah, halloumi, bacon, and just normal cheese, like actual yellow cheese, not orange.
Yeah, creamy
cheese.
yellow cheese, not orange.
So like cheddar cheese, but...
So yeah, we plan on visiting a few locations within Canada before we leave. One is going back up Sulphur Mountain. We did that in 2019 in winter, but it was minus 20 degrees and the kids couldn't go on that boardwalk that's on the top of the mountain. I really want to do that. It's spring now, so that...
Do that midweek when it's hopefully not as busy.
Yes, when Connor's given notice to his current job, so he'll have 3 weeks off before we leave to go back to Australia. And then we want to go do the Banff walk up to the tea rooms. We're sort of limited. We're selling our vehicles, so it's going to be hiring a car, and that's very expensive here. It can be up to $150 a day. We've come up with a solution of possibly hiring a U-Haul truck, like a ute, like a 2-seater ute, to get around, because that's a lot cheaper than going to a car company. So if we did go to the mountains, we'd have to take maybe 2 of those, or we would have to hire a car. We don't know, we haven't looked into it, but it's, as much as we'd love to see a bit more of Canada before we leave, it's very difficult when you've sold your vehicle. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video, guys. We really appreciate every single bit of the support that we've had over the years with our plans to move to Canada, to moving to Canada, from moving from the ranch to here.
Just everything.
Everything from sending us money on YouTube with the thanks button to buying items off our Out West Rancher website, or just sending me messages and asking and talking to us. So, what are you getting ready for?
To go outside.
Sorry, we bribed Riley with Connor will go out and play basketball with him while we could just quickly get this done. So he's come down with his shoes ready to go outside. But we just want to thank you all for all the support. Connor's had to go again, but he told me to say goodbye, and like usual guys, make sure you subscribe, like and comment, and we'll see you in our next video. We probably have 2 more videos after this before we leave Canada, and then it will change to Bec Out West. And make sure you guys check out our Out West Rancher sale. It's on right now. As soon as this video uploads, 40% off will be added to my website. So yeah, go and check it out, and thank you for all your guys' support. Bye.